Does God punish children for the sins of their parents? There are two passages in the Bible that at first glance seem to give two different answers to this question. But the more we look into this, the more we'll find that instead of contradicting, these two passages actually clarify each other. Our first passage is Exodus 20, verse 5, where God is commanding the Israelite people not to make idols and worship them. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. While this verse is written with the context of idolatry, it tells us something that's true about all sin. When parents sin, it almost always affects their children in some way. For instance, if a parent struggles with alcohol, their sin won't just affect them, it'll affect their entire family. Sin impacts more than just the sinner, it impacts the people around them. However, the key phrase in this verse is "of those who hate me." This makes it clear that God's judgment only falls on those who continue the sinful patterns of their parents. But God also promises great love to those who turn to him, regardless of their family's past. Exodus 20 verse 6 immediately follows up verse 5 by saying this, "But showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments." This contrast shows that while sin has real consequences, God's love extends even further. Now we fast forward several years later to the book of Ezekiel, where we find our next passage. The Israelite people are currently in captivity in Babylon because the generations before them turned away from God. This context is so important to understanding our second passage, which is Ezekiel 18 verse 20. "The soul who sins shall die. The son shall not suffer for the iniquity of the father, nor the father suffer for the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon himself, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon himself." Because of the context, we know this verse can't be saying that children will never suffer because of their parents' sin. I mean, the Israelite people are literally in captivity right now because of the generations before them. God is emphasizing that each generation has a responsibility to turn to him. Ezekiel chapter 18 is an encouragement to a discouraged Israel, telling them that even though their parents sinned before them, they can still turn to God and receive life and blessing. So how do these two passages fit together? Exodus highlights a reality of sin, that our sin doesn't just affect us, but it can affect the generations to come after. But Ezekiel emphasizes that each generation is responsible for their relationship with God. Both Exodus and Ezekiel encourage us that despite our background, we can still turn to God. And that if we turn to him, he will show us even greater love than the consequences of the sins before us. Today, we are under the new covenant. God sent us Jesus to be the perfect sacrifice for our sins so that we can be made right with God. The reality is that no matter how good of a life we live, we all deserve punishment. But God offers us forgiveness through the finished work of Jesus on the cross. Jesus took our rightfully deserved punishment so that we could be made right with God. I hope this video was helpful to you. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.